Good evening and welcome to Have I Got News For You? And if you're watching the Saturday repeat of this show, that's very impressive as it's going out on Sunday. In the news this week, in Reading, the director of Thames Water drives home having assured customers that the leaks are under control. In the Cotswolds, word spreads that Janet Street Porter is taking a walking holiday in the area. And in an attempt to rebuild his public image, Mike Tyson volunteers to play in goal in a charity soccer match. On Paul Merton's team in this devolution special is the leader of the SNP who says Labour's Scottish MPs are Scottish on the outside but with Union Jack underpants. Though quite how he found this out, he's yet to divulge. Alex Salmond. And just to show that we take Welsh issues just as seriously, joining Ian Hislop tonight is a man who became famous for carrying a giant leak and shouting "Oggy, oggy, oggy." Max Boyce. So, round one, and in the words of Piers Merchant, they're off. Four major news stories, Ian and Max. Here we go again.
That's a cookery programme. That's a cock-up. Gordon Brown.
It's the euro.
It's the euro. Chocolate Euro money. Coin. Big stink.
It's Ainsley and Fran on, I think, a ready, steady cook.
It's very well informed.
Being a devotee of the programme.
What are they cooking?
I don't know. Given the rest of the information, I guess it may be some sort of European dish.
Like a fudge.
Possibly.
This was the only interruption in the middle of the EMU speech, was someone on BBC stating that Ready Steady Cook would follow in 10 minutes' time. It was the only thing that was deemed important enough to interrupt Gordon Brown.
But having spent the whole of the last administration, the last 3,000 years, or however long the Tories were in, the Labour government saying, you know, the Tories have no idea where they stand on Europe, look at this pathetic fudge, then they came out with a position saying, well, we do want to join, but not now, and not necessarily later either. But we're absolutely clear. The one thing all New Labour people are is absolutely clear. So whenever they're interviewed, they say, I'd like to make it absolutely clear that I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Well,
and that's clear.
To his credit, Blair did specify a precise time when we would enter, which is soon after it is right for Britain.
You know, the Scottish National Party are totally united on this point, obviously.
Well, there's only one of you.
Yeah, I know. And in fact, our numbers have doubled since I was last on this programme. So I was sort of hoping it might happen again.
Yes, it is.
What about Wales?
Well,
when are you going to join?
As soon as you save up enough money.
Paul and Alex.
Yes, this is Mohammed Al-Fayed draping himself in the Union Jack. There's Tiny Rowland, and there's Neil Hamilton he's got a new job. He's selling dodgy stereos just off Oxford Street. But this is he did a press conference this week to try and sort of clear his name. He produced this tape recording of Al-Fayed and Tiny Rowland talking about various things, some of which was Al-Fayed's penis. He says it's very small. No, he's selling a bloke called Tiny Rowland, so I mean... he's probably got his own difficulties. My penis is so small, he said.
But,
it's tiny. The only thing about him that's a mouthful is his name, Mohammed Al-Fayed.
Did anyone hear it? Did you actually hear the conversation?
There was a lot of repetition of this word fugging.
In fact, we can actually play you an extract from it. I knew you'd be wanting to hear bits of it. So this is how it started, quite friendly.
Let's have lunch and we'll have another laugh. But don't talk never ever about my cock. Shows that my cock is small.
Such is the world of high finance.
Yes. It was soon after that BT closed down the chat line. Sadly, it went on.
You have a lot of shit from the establishment and all the fucking people, right? Time to show what type of people they are. And don't get frightened like me, right? Because my balls is big, my cock is a little bit small, that's all right.
A man obsessed.
Well, Hamilton thought if he played this, it would make him look innocent. Whereas it just made you think, so that's the bloke you were dealing with.
Yes, it's the Hamiltons' continuing search for justice as they this week organised a press conference to play secret tape recordings of Mohammed Al-Fayed talking to Tiny Rowland. In reference to the diminutive size of the former UN leader, Mr. Rowland referred to Al-Fayed's genitalia as his buttress Gali. Although when Al-Fayed gets excited, it becomes his buttress Gali.
And Buttress Gali is Welsh for dry flower arrangement.
It's incredible. Who just... And don't forget you heard it here first. At one point in the tape, Al-Fayed talks about his hatred of the Tory MPs who wouldn't give him British citizenship, saying, "They fucked me upside down." Well, if they didn't give him a passport after he let them do that, they never will. Ian and Max, a headline for you. Fall in, you dropouts.
I think it's about army recruitment, where, because of falling figures of lads joining the army, they've gone to get the homeless and the destitute to join them.
It's not just the homeless, they're looking elsewhere as well.
What, drug addicts, the destitute, the criminal?
Women.
Women is the word.
Women?
In fact, according to a US survey, women are better suited to being in the army than men. They are deadlier shots, superior pilots, and more willing to kill. But there are other Ministry of Defence plans in the news this week as well.
Well, they're going to turn Admiralty Arch into an extension of Centre Point, a place to put down and outs to sleep. Is that before they recruit them, then?
Put down and outs to sleep. So you really just put them down and out.
It's sort of... It's Tony Blair's hard-edged compassion. Sort of gently put them to sleep.
Yes, it is the army recruitment drive and the attempt to get women and homeless people to join up.
You've heard all this?
Just reprising.
All right.
Yeah, if that's okay.
Reprising?
Yeah. It's one of those words that people should use more often. One recruitment officer said a lot of these homeless people have criminal records. However, as long as they're not for murder, we can probably find a way round it. God forbid anyone capable of killing should end up in the army. And finally in this round, Paul and Alex, wax collector out on his ear.
This is the man who's collecting his own earwax. He spent years collecting his own weirax. He's dyslexic. He's collecting his own earwax.
Oh, right.
He's got great big bottles of it now. He's going to just, varnish the kitchen table with it. That's what he's going to do. That's his ambition.
It is astonishing, but it is actually true, yes.
Has he been thrown out of somewhere? I'm just wondering why it said out on his ear.
Oh,
well, because the wax is coming from his ear. Wax collector out on his arse doesn't make any sense.
Extremely.
Or as Esther Ranson used to say, "Let's of course you know differently."
So someone said his wife's thrown him out, or his girlfriend's thrown him out.
Well, yes.
She's sick of it. She thinks it's disgusting. She doesn't like it.
No, and can you blame her?
No, I can't. Can you?
No?
Then we have equanimity.
We do. I have no idea what it means, but we do have it.
It must be written down on a card there somewhere. Sure.
It's one of these words we should use more often.
Yes, OK. I'll try and slip it in sometime later on in the show.
It's very kind of you. I've been syringed, you don't have to worry.
Why is he doing this? There is a reason
To
behind
save
it.
money.
Oh, he's making honey.
For me, Earwax?
He's turned the wax into a giant comb, and he's now filling it with honey so he can market it. I just made that up.
And we never guessed. It is, in fact, that he's donating it to science. That's what he wanted to do. After collecting the wax in a jar, he showed it to his girlfriend, who was disgusted, saying, "Ew, it's horrible." Undeterred, he contacted the medical research facility in Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge, who immediately wrote back saying, "Ew, it's horrible." So, at the end of that round, both teams are sharing as many points as there are on the Hong Kong Share Index, being as it is 4-all. Before we subject you to the bedlam of round 2, the deathly silence created by our caption competition. And we'll be back for some more pregnant pauses before the end of the show. Round 2 this week features the wacky world of race relations, as we pay tribute to those Major League players who, not being satisfied with offending individuals, have managed to offend entire countries with their xenophobic remarks. Who did they offend and how is what we want to know. So, Paul and Alex, you're first up as we activate the gaffometer. Impressive, I think you'll agree.
So that means we're Gaza, are we?
Yeah, you're Gaza, yes.
He could have insulted the English because he's decided not to go to any of the English teams. He's staying at Rangers, so I suppose that could be an insult. A lot of people in Scotland, you know, whenever England's playing anybody, they support the other side. I mean, it's an inferiority thing, but I mean, I'm not like that at all. When England were playing in Rome, I supported the police right through the right through the match. But we think it's the Norwegians.
Norwegians. A few years ago, he said, because I remember seeing it on the television, somebody said, "Have you, Mr. Gascoigne, what do you have to say about the people of Norway or something?" And he said,
What?
Mohammed Al Fayed off.
Well, yes.
He burped somewhere else too, didn't he?
I think that was the same interview, I think. Oh, no, it wasn't. No, it was a different one. You're right.
No, he's got a full range of different replies. He's a terrifically articulate footballer.
Yes, although belching does tend to occur in most of the answers. Yes, it is Paul Gascoigne who got into trouble when a Norwegian camera crew asked if he had any message for their viewers, and Gascoigne replied as follows.
Say hello to Norway, then.
Yes, Laurie McMenemy immediately came to Gaza's defence by saying Paul tends to react abruptly and often uses the wrong words. Ian and Max, your chance to go head-to-head with the gaffometer.
Who's he offended?
This week he's obviously offended the Tibetans. He's upset the Tibetans, and obviously I'm probably the Taiwanese.
No, slightly closer to home.
Canadians?
No.
Americans?
Welsh.
Yes. Slightly closer to home, I
home.
say, looking at Max, and Ian says Canadians. Yes, Wales. Bill Clinton offended Welsh people in 1993 by using...
Oh, did he use the phrase, "don't Welsh on a deal"?
Exactly.
Oh, I remember that.
Were you offended, Max?
Not really, because it's spelled differently.
Yeah.
Clinton's use of the word Welshing has been branded politically incorrect. We are calling on the President to apologise to all Welsh Americans for his awful, insensitive presidential gaffe, said Rhys Lloyd, General Counsel for Juan Pilgrim, something or other. Paul and Alex, your enormous gaffer. No.
Is this a clue?
There's not a no. You happen to have chanced upon our mystery guest.
Is this the man who invented the microwave? No, face it could be anybody in the world. It might
Not
be...
everybody wears a tam o' shanter, presumably.
Well, we don't know. There's a tam o' shanter, and he's in it in silhouette. Might be banana with a cherry on it. He's offended the banana and cherry growers of Jamaica.
He's a Scottish poet.
Is it
Scottish poet.
Could be William McGonagall. He wrote the poem that there is a coup upon a hill, there is a coup upon a hill. It's no there new, it must have shifted.
I'll tell you who it was.
Yeah, go on.
He was someone called Francis Gallagher.
The third brother, is he?
Francis Gallagher, yeah.
Yes. You know, are you familiar with his work?
No.
He published a volume of poetry called Scotland.
That'll take ages.
Let me explain. One of Francis Gallagher's poems begins, Scotland is a miserable, sodden, third-rate, sexually repressed, backward shithole of a country where everyone has to pretend to appreciate every minute of their sterile, defeated life.
But, I mean, why dwell on the good points?
Ian and Max, your huge slight.
Yes, the jackpot.
Yes, you have indeed happened upon our bonus multi-gaffer who has offended so many countries.
Right, let's start with A. Albania, Australia. Well, he did the slitty eyes about the Chinese.
Right.
He did the Indian thing last week. Who else has he offended? What's on your card?
We're going to have to consult the authority on this, which is the Duke of Edinburgh's Book of Gaffs, Volume 3, so we can look up precisely. You said Australia, didn't you, initially?
That's a phone directory, that's not a book of gas.
Book of Gas.
It's a phone
Prop
Philip-
gag.
Philip
is
Gass.
what it is.
There's
did-
no actual book been published.
We'll let you into the secret.
Right, okay.
Bit of Angus's television magic.
Yes.
Not often you hear those words together in the same sentence.
He's got a card stuck in the middle of it.
Fantastic, isn't it? Look at
Come
that.
on, read it out.
Chilled drinking water.
Do you have a card stuck on your bedroom mirror so when you wake up in the morning it says, "Hello, I'm Angus Daly"?
It says comb hair now. Australians, you said, yes.
Put on odd-coloured suit.
Yes, when asked if he wanted to stroke a koala, he said, "Oh no, I might catch some ghastly disease." Yes, Hungarians, he told a Briton in the crowd, "You haven't been here long, you haven't got a pot belly." Kenyans, accepting a gift from a Kenyan woman in 1984, said, "You are a woman, aren't you?" The Scots asked a driving instructor from Oban, "How do you keep the natives off the booze long enough to get them to pass the test?" Which appalling faux pas end this outbreak of foot in mouth, and the situation is that, well, at the moment, Ian and Max look to be on the offensive, leading as they are by 11 points to 9.
They got points for every country they named.
Yes.
You should have mentioned 10.
I still reckon I'm going to lose.
Of the 4 rounds in tonight's show, round 3 is the odd one out, as we will now demonstrate. One per team, Paul and Alex, Jonathan Aitken, Alan Yentob, Emma Benino, and Fiona Hislop.
Well, it could be Emma Benino because she's the only one who's kissed Jack Cunningham, which she did before a European meeting. And
Tongues, haven't we?
Well, believe it or not, Angus, Jack didn't come back and confide in me. I mean, I'm just going on what I saw in the papers. But anyway, she's kissed Jack Cunningham, and Jonathan Aitken. Well, I don't know about it, but I don't think he has. So, a former girlfriend, Jonathan Aitken, said that in the 60s he'd advocated the legalisation of cannabis, but only for top people. He didn't want the masses to get it. Now, presumably, Jonathan Aitken later denied that. Alan Yentob is a high-up person in the BBC. Yes, we better get his name right.
Yes.
He's a high-up person in the BBC who the Independent on Sunday said was pro-legalisation, but he then denied it because he's a high-up person in the BBC. And Fiona Hislop was quoted at the SNP conference supporting the legalisation of cannabis, but she later explained she wanted to reclassify cannabis, which means you don't go to jail if you use it. And therefore, the conclusion is it's Emil Benino, not because she kissed Jack Cunningham, but because she's the only person who's supported the legalisation of cannabis and stuck to it.
Is the wrong answer, once again. It's a very good answer, David. Why is Alan Yentov?
Well, because he did, as Alex said, he originally said, yes, I support this in a private conversation, apparently, and then immediately denied it. So everybody else supports
he was stoned at the time, wasn't he?
Yeah. Everybody else, interesting way to resign, isn't it? Everybody else supports the legalisation of cannabis.
Good sense of humour, Alan.
Of cannabis, apart from Alan Yentov.
Is the right answer. Yes, very good. Well done. Yes, of course, Fiona Hislop is...
China.
I beg your pardon?
For an extra point.
No, he already said China, so you can't have it. According to ex-groupie Jenny Fabian, who slept with Jonathan Aitken back in the 60s, after he tied my wrists to the back of the bed, he plopped down on me and I was submerged by the weight of his corpse-like flesh. Perhaps you'd like to be whipped with an electric cable, he suggested. Certainly not, I said sternly. But apart from that, it was a lovely evening. Ian and Max, your deceptively simple bunch are Prince Charles, William Hague, John Redwood and Vinnie Jones.
Prince Charles, during the investiture, learnt to sing the national anthem and also learnt to speak Welsh for the investiture. William Hague has been taught by his fiancée, Fionn, to speak Welsh. Vinnie Jones learnt the Welsh national anthem because he was captain Wales and sang it before a game at Cardiff Arms Park. And John Redwood made an absolute arse of himself trying to sing it. Terribly, terribly. They kept showing it on all sorts
How
of
does it go?
Isn't that absolutely appalling? Thank God we don't do things like that. Although...
With a bit of emotion for you.
I was born in Wales. I left when I was 5 months.
And it shows.
Yes, the answer is that they all know the words to the Welsh national anthem.
France.
No. Which song and dance brings this round to its proud conclusion, and the signals are that Paul and Alex have an unfashionable 12, while Ian and Max are all the rage with 14. And so to the hideous inevitability of our final missing words round, a parade of unidentified headlines for our panel to pick out, including perhaps some from this week's guest publication, everyone's favourite, Wales on Sunday. First up, what bigger than Scary Spice?
Cardiff.
No.
Leek.
In the right area.
Turnip.
Pumpkin.
What are the other Welsh vegetables?
Marrow is the right answer. Next, MPs to wake up, what?
Ted Heath.
Zoe Ball.
In their own beds.
Yeah. With Ted Heath.
With Ted Heath.
Zoe Ball already won. They want to wake up to Zoe Ball rather than anyone else.
Is the right answer. With Zoe. Very good.
Oh.
This is because Radio 1, they say, fits Labour's new image, i.e. about half as popular as it was 6 months ago. Next, what sweet talks women into bed?
Sherbet.
The Scots accent. It's a survey by Durex, which I just happened to be reading. And it said that the Scots far and away had the sexiest accent that could sweet talk women, or men for that matter, into bed.
Yes, it's a case of beam up me, Scotty.
Yeah. And
Or up me beam, Scotty.
That's rude.
Because
You take the low road, I'll take the high road.
Most of these surveys are absolute rubbish, but I mean, this one looks pretty credible to me.
Yes, it is the right answer. Very good. Next, Carey says 2000 is what?
A jolly big number.
1 year short of a very good film. No big deal.
No big deal is the closest. Nothing special is how he put it. And finally, brain transplant makes chicken what?
Move away for Christmas.
Refuse to cross the road.
A quiz show presenter.
Corner.
Will they take a bit out, you mean? No. Even more bizarre than that.
Poultry spice.
Poultry spice.
It is in fact rather bizarrely, think it's a quail. Which desperate bid for points blows the final whistle on tonight's end-to-end battle. And in the final analysis, this week's Yobbos are Ian and Max with 15, while this week's Boyos are Paul and Alex with 16. So bravo to our winners, the shopping channel to our losers. But before we release the panellists back into the community, there's the brief concern of our caption competition, Ian and Max, Paul and Alex. What do you think of this?
Well, I think there's one missing. There's Tinky, Winky, Lala, Paul, and Dipsy's missing. Or maybe it's Winky. Anyway, there's one missing. Well, Parliament doesn't start till the afternoon, so... It's Stuff the Spice Girls, we're number one this Christmas.
I think the one on the left is Al-Fayed. He doesn't appear to have much going on down there, does he?
Well, he's certainly not the one standing next to him with what's growing out of his head. I feel sorry for the purple bloke.
The yellow one's got what Bill Clinton's got.
A nice big office.
On which satirical note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Max Boyce, Paul Merton and Alex Salmond. And I leave you with news that in Paris, shares in oil of Ulay tumble as the chairman inadvisedly turns up at a glamorous fashion party. In Westminster, top Conservatives try to ignore a scandalous libel involving Michael Portillo and a donkey. And there's consternation at Tory Central Office as Piers Merchant forgets to cancel the interviews for his new PA. Good night.